All right, so we've had ownership of this Porsche 911 now for a year and a half. We've done not much mileage, 2,000 kilometers, so nothing too drastic when it comes to mileage. But so far, it's been good to us. Yes, we did do some improvements on it. Those weren't functional; they're more aesthetic. It's been good. It's with only doing 2,000 kilometers, we can say it's sat a lot. It hasn't suffered from sitting a lot. Suspension is still great. The clutch is fantastic. So I think a lot of whether you can, survive and thrive having an old classic European vehicle depends on the condition you get it in. There's a lot of fear on the market saying you can't own these, but I'd say you definitely can own these and you can enjoy these as well. Let's see how they do here. You get an old Porsche, and if the suspension is recent, check to see if the suspension's been done. If not, consider you might have to do shocks. But they're great cars. They can offer you a lot of fun, acceleration, pedal to the metal fun, or just be beautiful, gorgeous drive around and coast cars. And if the shocks have been done, get cars that handle incredibly well. Because let's face it, nowadays all these high-end sports cars seem to come with, people seem to think they need to have more than 500 horsepower. That's just not the case. Show you right here. .500 horsepower would be too much horsepower to actually have fun with. So a car becomes fun when you're driving it a little off, kind of its maximum driving point, when you still have traction, but you're not far from losing traction, whether you're accelerating or going through the bendies, the turns. It's where a car is fun. And when a car has 500 horsepower, or more, can't really have fun because you can't get anywhere near the limits. You'll maybe almost never drive the car past, let's say the limits are at 10. You'll take it to, on a regular basis, 1, 2, or 3, and sometimes bring it up to 5 out of 10. You're always going to be driving far from the limits likely, or you're going to be driving unbelievably, illegally, way over the limits. And tickets and losing your license aren't fun either. So oddly, I'd say my recommendation is that 350 horsepower. It's wonderful. It's perfect. It's a good time. You just have to make sure you get the car. If you want to have a good time, a lot of that's going to boil down to what condition you get the car in. It's a big don't be fooled aspect of this. The car is just looking good, it looks good, but you don't look underneath it and see that maybe it's rotted out or that it's leaking gas or oil. Buying the car and then barely being able to drive it because it's always at the mechanics and needs tens of thousands of dollars, that won't be fun. And that has been the case for the Toyota MR2. A JDM, a Toyota MR2 has cost tens of thousands of dollars so that it can start running well. At least there's no rust or rot on it, but that's not so fun. We've had it for almost 4 years, and we've driven it for 100 kilometers, next to nothing. We haven't really gotten to enjoy it because even those kilometers were driven with what's going to break and when is it going to break mentality. Whereas these 911s, I did a better job inspecting them, especially this black 911, and it's been nothing but fun and joy, other than a little bit of a convertible repair. Doing the research on the vehicle is so crucial because I knew what to look for. I knew what I was getting myself into. I knew that you could have problems with the little key, and that it's a little ignition piece, and that it's not expensive to switch. So if you have trouble turning it over, there you go. I knew the IMS can be an issue, so I made sure I was sure that the IMS is good before buying, and I'm just having fun. It's a car that if ever you need to get your money back out, well, they don't depreciate. You know, if you buy it at the right price in the right condition, it's always worth paying a little bit more to get it in the right condition. But I've got a car that I get to drive for as many years as I want, not put much money in, and then sell it. And, you know, sell it for what I bought it for, or sell it for more. You know, there aren't new sports cars that you can do that with. New sports cars are gonna depreciate. The Shelby GT350 being a nice exception. I can sell it for the same price I bought it for, or a little bit more. But those sports cars are rare, and I can't think of any sports cars, even a new Porsche 911 you're gonna buy, and you're not gonna be selling it now, unless things change. You're not gonna be selling it for the price you paid, or more. So this is, in the long run, free fun. And that's pretty rare to come across these days, no matter what hobby you have. Free fun is pretty rare. Drop it in the comments if you know of any free fun across, whether it's with a vehicle or some other hobby. If you can think of, list a model of vehicle that you can have free fun with, drop it in the comments. And you know, a lot of people think, it's a misconception, that if you have a European vehicle, especially if it's older, that it's going to cost you a fortune. Not necessarily true. They also think that it's going to drive horribly and be undrivable if the roads are a little bad. The roads are horrible right now, and it's fine. The 911 is a good mix of luxury and sports car, and just a little bit of race car. It's a fun mix. I hope you try it out. Let me know if you've driven a Porsche 911. Now the new ones are wildly fast, and that's a lot of fun. They also get you in a lot of trouble. I like these older ones. I find 300 to 400 horsepower is a really nice, friendly, usable range. But what matters is what you think. Let me know in the comments. Do you need 500 horsepower to have fun or not? Let me know. Either way, so glad you're watching. If you've made it this far, drop a comment. What do you think of, you know, the idea of getting a 90s or 2000s European sports car? Or maybe, you know, you've got a 2000s Mustang that's been really good to you. Let me know. Share your experiences, folks. This is a car community where I hope we all learn and grow together. And if you are still watching, make sure you do subscribe and turn bell notifications on, because otherwise it might be the only time that YouTube actually suggests or offers up this channel, because it is a small channel. So support this small family business, folks. Now I'm going to get back to the joy of driving an appropriately powered vehicle and enjoy this sports car, because, well, you can actually be driving the speed limit and still having fun. It doesn't feel unbelievably slow, because, you know, you're on 2 out of 10 on what the car can do. See you in a little bit. Keep watching. I've got more for you. So if your old classic sports car isn't rusting and falling apart underneath and has decent shocks, the shocks are relatively new, do consider, if they're not relatively new, you might have a lot of money to put into, and research the vehicle. Because, for example, Air Glide or the air suspensions from Mercedes almost always go bad, and, you know, or Audi as well. You want to look into this and be in a situation where you know in advance, is this likely going to cost me, you know, $6,000 or $7,000 for this one, or even more, $10,000, $12,000 for one problem? What are the common problems on the vehicle? But these 911s are really reliable and a lot of fun. All right, let's see here. A little bit of acceleration. Rolling start. Off from second. stock exhaust. I call that classy old money exhaust. So it's not screaming so that everyone within a mile hears you. So that's maybe new money exhaust sound. That's a nice mix of engine and exhaust sound. The exhaust isn't so loud that you hear absolutely nothing from the engine. That's nice. That's a little old money takeoff, old money exhaust, appropriately powered, appropriately loud. Of course, there's part of me that would like that to be louder, but does the job. It's very enjoyable, and for a fraction of the price of a new 911, for a tenth of the price of a new 911, basically, and not quite a tenth, but close to a tenth, maybe an eighth of the price of a new 911. This is the bee's knees. Bumpy roads, no problem. Old classic European vehicles, or any old vehicle, can handle bumpy roads if you got new suspension. So that's the key to having fun. One of the keys. A lot to take into account if you're going to get into this kind of project or to this type of ownership. All right, so let's take this for a drive and talk about what kind of joy we've had with this vehicle, and also what kind of problems, mostly electrical. But do keep in mind, there's a lot of ways to hide damage on these vehicles, even on the paint. This is actually, that's not dirt, that's worn out paint, because they do kick up little rocks and you will sandblast part of your paint. So keep an eye out for that. That's really, really common. Do keep in mind also the back windows on these convertible tops. You can actually put a little grease on them so that the windows appear good. You can also, but they'll only appear good. So do take a look. Try to maybe wash the window a bit if you're looking over one of these vehicles and considering buying it. Look closely at, really closely at the clear coat, because often you can do a nice little wax job and hide the little scratches in the clear coat. But then when they come out, you can also do a lot of correction with a black felt permanent marker. So that's actually not paint, that's correction. Lots of corrections on the paint with a marker. When it comes down to it, a lot of what you should worry about, a lot of our 1 year ownership experience, comes down to electrical problems. We've had problems with the top, these back rear windows. As you can see, it's stuck in the up position, and currently its functionality is reversed. Well, the pulley often breaks. You got to switch that up. Takes a few hours. If ever you unplug the battery, make sure you do have the code, because then you lose the radio. And we've had a bit of trouble starting the vehicle. The ignitions on these go bad quite often, and a little weird electrical problem here. As you can see, I turn on the vehicle and the air conditioning's on, even though that's not how I last left it. And the fan's at full blast. I have no code for the radio and had to unplug the battery to work on the convertible top. So problem there. And if you're trying to start the vehicle in a hurry, keep in mind, nothing. So try again. Get the clutch in all the way. Yeah, now it's locked, okay? Off, little timer. And this time it starts. So if you're stalled out on a hill, air conditioning on full again. If you're stalled out on a hill, good luck. People behind you are going to be honking. That's likely due to the fact that the little ignition switch in here, which is not expensive to replace. Don't assume because it's a Porsche 911, all parts cost a fortune. The parts under $50. Just need to switch that ignition. And I have had problems, other problems as well. But now let's take it for a drive, because it is an absolute joy to drive. So we just love how this thing accelerates. It's got really smooth acceleration. The clutch is pretty spaced out between the gears, so you can always get a short shifter if you want that to be a little more tight. We do have it on the red 911. We've got a short shift kit on that, and the shifts are absolutely fantastic. They're a little more stiff. They come to you much more quickly. This does feel a little bit like a loose, kind of spacey gearbox in between gears, but easily repaired. But the naturally aspirated engine is just fantastic. What a joy to drive. Starts to make noise at 4,000 RPM. And just a joy to drive in the bendies. Woo! Really sticks it to the road. Even though this is a convertible, we've got no issues at all when it comes to handling. It just sticks to the road. There's no body roll. And even though there's no body roll, which means stiff suspension, this is still great on the bumps. This is a relatively bumpy road, and between the absolute seat comfort and the suspension, we could drive like this for hours, and even for hours over days and days. This would be a great vehicle to cross the country with. All right, now for the section of this video where we test out the suspension on these nasty speed bumps. Let's test them at speed, see what we've got here. Suspension has been surprisingly really good. It's excellent for a vehicle that handles this well in the bendies. For it to do this well over these annoyingly large speed bumps that a lot of vehicles actually have bottomed out on. These are new speed bumps and they're already all scratched up. Excellent, absolutely excellent. You will not be disappointed, I promise. Now, as you can see, the radio is broken for two reasons. It's not functioning because I don't have the code, so make sure if you're shopping for one of these that you do have the radio code, or be ready to actually swap out the radio system, because as you can see here, not functioning as it should. And the Porsche 911s are mechanically fantastic. Handle well, take bumps really well, are fun to drive. We do expect to have a few electronical problems. As mentioned earlier, the ignition switch, the fans causing the vehicle to overheat. But as you can see, we fixed ours in this one and it's right where it should be. Always plays between the 180 line and right there. If it's higher, you've got a fan relay that you need to switch. The fans themselves rarely ever need to be switched out, just the relay. And then you'll be driving the vehicle at the right temperature and enjoying those beautiful views. Do expect, almost guaranteed at some point, to have rear window issues. So the pulley's made of plastic, it breaks, and it is a pain in the butt to switch. Or you'll be paying a few hours. But overall, love this vehicle. As a used vehicle, would definitely rate it 7 or 8 out of 10. I'd say 8 out of 10 if you can get over those front lights. If you can get over the front lights not being exactly the nicest style, but you know, I kind of appreciate them for being very unique. And if you can get over those front lights, you're gonna get a steal of a deal. You're gonna have miles per gallon, but here's a downside of this vehicle as we close up. It requires 93 octane. A lot of gas stations don't even sell 93 octane, so you're gonna have to know where in your area, if at all, sells 93 octane, because that's what needs to go into the engine. It's very important. Avoid engine knocking. I'm not willing to test lower than 93 octane, and actually locally I can get 94 octane from the pump, so I take that pump fuel, but that is 94 octane, so I'm higher is actually really tough to find. But overall, loving this vehicle, less trouble than the Toyota MR2. If you shop these properly and don't get one that has the IMS bearing that's about to blow and a $25,000 repair, you're gonna love it. But the key and the trick to saving thousands on this vehicle is really make sure what kind of condition it's in. Make sure that the IMS bearing has either been changed or you have it inspected. You can even have it inspected for bore scoring. Make sure the exhaust is clear, that it's not coming out a certain color when you turn the vehicle on and when you give it the beans. Exhaust color should be clear and invisible. Shouldn't be any weird knocking noises either, or metal on metal noises when you start it up. That's another IMS tall tale sign. And before buying one of these, have it inspected and actually pay to have the oil changed. It's worth it because it could avoid you buying a vehicle that has occasionally the IMS bearings go with zero symptoms other than metal in the oil. So pay to have the oil changed. Now let's conclude the video with a few tricks. If you're shopping or currently owning one of these vehicles, let's look at a few of the things you should consider. Let's start with the gauges up front here. You should have your oil pressure at just above 1 when you're idling. And of course, when you're driving around, it is very much okay if it's at 3, 4, or even just under 5. So your oil pressure right there. Now your temperature when you've been sitting idling and not moving for a while, that's about as high as it should ever go. And often it should be right around the 8 and the 0. But it's a little higher now because it is idling. Now let's take a look in the front for a very important trick. If this ever does start to get too hot, too warm, little trick, turn up the heat, put the fan on full blast, and it'll force the press stone around the engine and in the radiator to swap around, so it will help cool off the engine. You can see that's how it should sound when we're idling. Let's leave it actually. Start it up. You shouldn't hear any metal noise. Let's go check out how the exhaust should sound. Should be clear. No metal noise whatsoever. Now do keep in mind, if these things are waxed really, really well, you can hide a lot of errors, but do watch for thin clear coat. You can see clear coat thinning here, so no more compounds can be done to this. We're on the thinnest layer of compound, and actually here, of clear coat. Here we're actually out of clear coat in these 3 spots. So if this paint gets scratched up more, we're done. All we can do is try to hide it with really good wax. We can't permanently remove them. You can take a black felt permanent marker when you do have some stone chips to fill them in, which we can try to do that somewhat here, but all that can be hidden with wax. So sometimes it's worth just going through a car wash and see what the vehicle looks like after you put it through the car wash. Should hear the fans run. You need to make sure your intercooler here stays clean, because if it gets clogged up with leaves, debris, muck, and junk, you will overheat, and it is a $20,000 to $25,000 motor to rebuild, so you definitely want to avoid that. Behind this plastic piece is where you can screw in the hook. Now, when you're shopping for one of these, do make sure you have the little kit that includes the tow hook, as well as some other tools. For example, a tool for replacing these headlights. The headlights that absolutely bring down the value of this vehicle. There's some really nice aftermarket lights that you can look into, and do keep in mind that fuel right here is going to need 93 octane as a minimum. So we just heard the fans turn off up front. So properly functioning fans, the relay on these fans often breaks and causes the vehicle to run hotter. Do pay to have your air filter changed often, the spark plugs changed. Do all the regular maintenance on this vehicle, and you've got a fantastic vehicle. Do note that the convertible tops, a common problem with these vehicles is that the pump breaks. It ends up being about a $1,700 repair. You'll probably have to do it once in the life of the vehicle, so hopefully that's already been done. And do also keep in mind that the pulleys on these for that little quarter window, rear quarter windows, often break, and when they do, it's several hours to pay someone to switch it, or you can do it on your own, but it is a tight squeeze, and you have to make sure that you do not damage the piston there, because if you do, you're looking at a good $1,000 replacement. So you ought to decide if it's worth doing it yourself. But So overall, very, very satisfied with this Porsche 911. Rated a good, solid 8 out of 10. But do keep in mind, you might end up rating it 0 out of 10 if you do buy one with an IMS problem. So have it inspected. Check it for bore scoring. If you're really thinking you're going to buy it, before buying it, when it's getting inspected, pay for that oil change. Make sure that there's no metal filings in the oil or bearing material, because the IMS bearing, it will ruin the motor, but it's not the end of the world. Getting it replaced, it's about a $1,500 to $2,000 part and roughly 10 hours of work. So you're looking at about a $3,000 to $4,000, if you're unlucky, $5,000 job. But remember, you are getting these for a third of the price, roughly a third to a quarter of the price of the generation before and the generation after. And this is the first water-cooled generation. So it is the first generation where you can get stuck in traffic and not worry about overheating. Love the vehicle so much, bought two. We have a red one. It's been at the mechanics for some minor, what is hopefully going to be minor stuff. They just haven't had time to jump on it. Now stay tuned to the channel, because we'll be talking about what we're doing with our Ford Bronco. This is our third Ford Bronco. This one we've owned for 15 months. And well, with the arrival of our daughter, we've got to sadly say bye to the Bronco. So we'll do a final review on this. Everything we've absolutely loved about the Ford Bronco. You can hear that. The fans just turned back on, so do make sure that the fans work on these. Not because it's an expensive repair. The fan and the relay together are about $150. The real problem is if someone's been driving it for thousands of kilometers with it always running much hotter than it should be, that could pose problems for the engine. But you can get a ton of hundreds of thousands of kilometers out of this engine if you don't have IMS trouble. So I hope this video finds you well. I wish you all more cars and more power. Thank you so much for watching and supporting our channel. Once again, please just like, subscribe, turn bell notifications on. Otherwise, you likely will not see this material again. And please let us know, what has been your classic vehicle ownership experience like, or people that you've known? What do you know? Share what you know about owning a classic vehicle. All the highs, all the lows. We'd love to hear about it. And if you made it this far in the video, at least just drop the comment finisher. It will help us know where you're getting to in the content. Again, thank you so much. And until next time, more cars and more power, and hope you get to put the pedal to the metal on your favorite vehicle sometime real soon.